We could be one step closer to learning whether the disappearances and deaths of at least 10 national security insiders with reported links to top nuclear secrets are connected, or whether, or even worse, whether they were all targeted. The House Oversight Committee is now investigating and today requested briefings with the Departments of War, Department of Energy, NASA, and the FBI. Committee Chairman James Comer and committee member Eric Burlison wrote that, quote, if the reports are accurate, these deaths and disappearances may represent a grave threat to U.S. national security and to U.S. personnel with access to scientific secrets. NewsNation's been out front on this story since the very start. The cases are all very strange, and have a lot of similarities in common. They involve people who left their homes with no personal belongings and then simply disappeared. Some left home with a firearm before they vanished. Others were last seen on a highway or on a hike. At least 2 were killed in their homes. The highest profile person on the list is arguably retired Air Force Major General William McCasland. There's been speculation he oversaw a classified government UFO program. Last week, President Trump said the White House is looking into the reports, calling it, quote, pretty serious stuff. My next guest agrees. Congressman Eric Burlison was one of the first lawmakers to call for an investigation into these disappearances. He told me moments ago that something about this is not normal. Congressman, you say in this letter that this could potentially be a, quote, grave threat to United States national security and to U.S. personnel with access to scientific secrets. Explain what you're worried about.
Well, obviously, we know that there are programs in the past where foreign countries have used programs to try to encounter, engage, sometimes get the nation's top scientists to either stop what they're doing or come and work for that country. And so whether it was Operation Paperclip or most recently you have China that's been doing Operation Fox Hunt as well as Operation Skynet. These are disturbing, but it is true that foreign actors do engage. And our scientific community are very vulnerable targets.
Do you think that, I mean, this is not an extraordinary set of coincidences, that in fact they may be linked?
Right. What's fascinating about these individuals, they all were working in aerospace. They're working in whether it was in materials or propulsion. They were working with plasma research, all related to this topic. Well, that's fascinating. But what's really fascinating is the 4 individuals that stepped out of their home, left their phones behind, left their wallet, left everything behind, and just completely disappeared and never came back. That's not something that a normal person does. And the fact that it happened within 1 year, 4 people walked out of their home, never to be seen again, all of which were working together on these projects for the Department of Defense. That's very mysterious.
How sensitive were the projects these 4 and others were working on?
Now, these are our top projects. I mean, you have Monica Reza was working on the materials that would be used for any kind of hypersonic missile in the United States. That is a critical national security issue. The others were working on advanced propulsion for our Air Force. So they were all read in at the highest security levels one could possibly imagine.
We know that in the past, for example, Israel has targeted Iranian nuclear scientists as a way to hurt Iran's nuclear program. What country do you think could or possibly be behind the disappearances of these top scientists?
I would not be surprised if our adversaries, China, Russia, Iran, or any other adversary saw an opportunity to take out some of our nation's top scientists. I would not be shocked. It certainly is something that I would hope that our federal government is keenly aware of and trying to safeguard. But look, these scientists are not hardened. They don't have security detail. So they would be a very easy target, and that's something that has me worried for the rest of our nation's scientists. The other thing that concerns me is if there's nothing fishy here, and these individuals just had mental breakdowns, that tells you maybe there's something we should be doing to address the mental health of some of our scientists.
You've been a prominent voice in Congress calling for an investigation since these disappearances came to light. You wrote letters to the FBI, to NASA, and the Departments of Energy and War requesting briefings. Have you gotten a response from any of those departments?
Not yet. We originally sent a letter related to a military intelligence officer that's not related to these scientists per se. But that is another common topic as well. So we've sent the letters for the scientists. We've also been sending letters for people that we know that were, maybe they weren't a scientist, but they were working alongside these same programs and projects, but they were on the military intelligence side. So we have sent those letters as well, and we're hopeful now that the president is paying attention that we'll start to get some answers.
Yeah, the president said late last week that he was looking into this and had directed the White House to look into it. Have you been in touch with President Trump? Have you heard from the White House in any way?
I have not directly. Look, I'm the 435th most powerful member of Congress, so I am not exactly on their call list. But I would welcome a conversation with the White House anytime.
Finally, because I know you've done a lot of work on this issue as well, I spoke to journalist and UFO investigator Jeremy Corbell on Friday night, just moments after President Trump vowed to release the UFO files and these 46 videos. Do you have any information on when that will happen?
I don't know. The president says that it's imminent, so hopefully that's soon. I hope that he is really doing the diligent work of gathering this information. The intelligence community it's a hard nut to crack. I think that what we saw with the JFK files and those released is that he had to be pretty forceful in order to get some of those files away from the CIA, for example. Mm-hmm. It's my hope that the president is truly trying to not take no for an answer and is going to press hard to get these files, because I think there's a lot of information out there between the CIA and the Department of Energy. I think that's the first place that I would be demanding information from.
Yeah, Congress has been pushing hard for quite some time to get more access and to make public more of this information, because a huge amount of it has been kept under lock and key, very secret.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very hard for us in the Oversight Committee to get anything. But I mean, we have a lot of people that come to us. Many of those videos, the 45 videos that were requested, I've seen. But because we have a lot of whistleblowers and people in the intelligence community that are coming to talk to members of Congress, because we can be read in at any classification level. And you've got some people working in the system that are doing their patriotic duty, which is why we're aware of these videos and that they do exist. But we want the American people to see these videos. The American people deserve to know.
What do you think their reaction will be once they see them, having seen them yourself?
I think that we have a lot of footage that's similar to the gimbal video. We have footage that's similar to the Go Fast. There's some that are in pretty good clarity. I've seen a metallic silver orb that's about the size of a beach ball in very, very clear imagery. Mm-hmm. And then you're seeing there's some videos of immediate acceleration of a flying object, and that's not something that it just defies any normal propulsion or physics that we know of.
It sounds like the American public, in your opinion, will be pretty surprised to see these videos then.
I think so. The thing that I'm still looking for is that smoking gun, that definitive video that says that we are not alone. The things that I have seen are very mysterious. We don't seem to have an explanation for them, but there's nothing that definitively proves that they're from another planet.
All right. Congressman Eric Burlison, thank you so much, and keep us posted on when you get this briefing on these disappearances. Really important and disturbing stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.